The long-awaited start to a brand new Marvel begins right here in Marvel Legacy issue number 1, so let's jump right in. So as we open up into the comic, we are taken to 1 million years ago, to Earth in the Stone Age. We see that Odin's son is having some trouble while a bunch of primitive apes are more or less trying to lift Mjolnir. As it turns out, Odin threw the hammer, but it did not come back to him. But to make matters worse, the Phoenix shows up and is quick to sort of throw a few jabs and quips at him, insulting him even further. Odin is quick to just lift the hammer and walk off into the distance, where we see him meet up with the 1 million BC version of the Avengers. The Panther, Starbrand, Iron Fist, and Agamotto are all here, along with the Ghost Rider. And things are about to get a lot more interesting, because if you remember Marvel history at this time, Celestials were on Earth. And it just so happens that one Celestial is right in the distance. As they're quick to point out, something is wrong with this Celestial. He almost seems infected by something, a little bit deranged, and Agamotto is quick to point out that there are others out there, so maybe they should do something about this one before more decide to show up. One course of action is to kill it, and string it up on the moon as a warning sign to other Celestials. This is of course the idea of Odin, before the comic transitions to modern time. Here we catch up with Robbie Reyes, the Ghost Rider, who we see wakes up as cops are knocking on his window. He doesn't really know where he is, but we see that he was having a dream of the exact part of the comic we just saw. He is quick to take off, wondering how the hell and where the hell he is. As it turns out, last he remembers, he was in LA. Now, it just so happens he's in Cape Town, Africa. As he keeps speeding, he runs into the Starbrand, who wants him to show himself. He wants to fight him because there is something that needs to be taken care of. Robbie quickly takes the form of the Ghost Rider before the comic shifts again. And this is where we catch up with Loki. Loki and a pack of frost giants. Now these just so happen to be smaller frost giants, much like him. Ones that were rejected by the pack and left for dead. And it is here that Loki is using his slippery tongue to be able to convince them to do his bidding. As it turns out, they have to go to Midgard and they have to steal something. They have to find a particular crate. This crate just so happens to hold whatever Loki needs to further his scheme. And then the comic shifts once again to present day. Now as we pick up in modern day, we see that a bunch of agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to deal with some very mysterious crate. It just so turns out this is the same one that Loki was after. And out of nowhere we see that the Frost Giants show up and start killing all of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But not before Thor, Jane Foster, and Sam Wilson, the Falcon aka Captain America, show up to the rescue. Unfortunately, they don't do the best job up until Ironheart shows up and manages to help everybody. We then see the news talking about Captain America, the real Captain America, Steve Rogers, and how he hasn't taken responsibility yet for what his doppelganger did with the whole Secret Empire. We see Captain America is just out west in a diner, pretty much laying low. We then take two quick sidesteps, one featuring Thor, who is drinking, and a warning about Mangog is coming and everybody should be worried, and the second one of Mary Jane Watson inside the Stark facility in Denver, New Jersey, where we see that they go up to the exact location where Tony Stark was located in his coma, except he is now missing. And as it turns out, to further the mystery, nothing really happened here. No one showed up, no one took the body, so Stark just disappeared. Over the course of the next couple pages, we're going to catch up again with Starbrand and Ghost Rider, who keep battling each other, and it's a pretty damn hectic battle, involving fire, explosions, people's lives at stake. Yeah, all the good stuff we've come to expect. And then the comic jumps over to our friendly Merc with a mouth, who happens to have the police squad just unload as he's sitting on the toilet. Yeah, because that's Deadpool. We quickly also get to catch up with Iron Fist, Doctor Strange, and the Avengers Mansion, where we see that things are more or less going how we saw them going previously, before the battle shifts back over to Captain America, Sam Wilson, Iron Fist, and Thor, completely obliterating all of these frost giants, who do happen to get their hands onto the crate that they needed to, and one of them starts running away. The comic then transitions over to New York City, where we see Johnny Storm and the Thing sitting on top of the Baxter building. The Thing manages to take a flare and shoots it up into the air, putting the Fantastic Four logo up. We then see that a bunch of people are doing some archaeological excavating, you can say. Okay, not really, they just kind of happen to be looking through some caves, and it turns out that they found the exact Celestial we saw at the beginning of the comic, and he's buried. And to make matters worse, he's able to get a shock of electricity out, and from what it looks like, it comes alive. Over with the one Frost Giant who managed to steal the crate, we see that he's on the run of his life, as he's trying to get away. And he ends up running into a familiar figure. A figure with a hat who raises his hat slowly to reveal that he also has a pair of claws that are about to stab this Frost Giant straight through the face. Yes, as it turns out, Logan, Wolverine, the very same one that died a few years back, is now back in Marvel Comics. And we see that even the adamantium skeleton, or the adamantium shell he was encased in, is broken. And to make matters even more interesting, Logan now has an Infinity Gem. And as the story in the comic closes, we find out that someone in particular is telling this story. This just so happens to be Franklin and Valerian Richards. That's right, the children of the Fantastic Four. Or should I say Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm. And as it turns out, they're off into the distance to find their parents, as the comic closes with the Fantastic Four logo. Marvel Legacy #1 is rather interesting. It's not a bad comic by any means, it's actually quite good and quite entertaining with a lot of good writing. Unfortunately, this is set up the comic. It is literally like a preview comic setting up what is coming after this whole Generations and Legacy thing into the whole new version of Marvel that we're going to have. I'm okay with that, but I almost wish it would have been a singular story focusing on the Avengers of BC, like I think many people expected. Overall, beautiful art and great stories that unfortunately don't get fleshed out. For that reason, I'm giving this a recommendation, but I am giving it a 7 out of 10.